All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our very special fantasy episode. We all love fantasy football here. And I will say it is that time of year again where drafting is aplenty. We are in a league together. So talking fantasy can get a little dicey. With that being said, today we're each going to be picking one player from each position that we like and we believe that you should come away with in your draft. We're going to try and be realistic with our picks to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, we will give one deep sleeper, someone who is like 8th rounder later is where you're going to be drafting that player. Now that could be a quarterback stash, could be a wide receiver on a bad team, could be a backup running back that may or may not get some starting carries later on in the season.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do that. And beyond that, there's a couple guys, some notable names that I will ask you about just based on the situation, how you feel about them on the fantasy level. So we can do that as well.
Sounds like a plan. I think we should start with quarterback, though.
Let's do it.
Who is one quarterback that you are trying to come away with in every draft?
I mean, the obvious guys are there. The Lamars, the Josh Allens. If I can't get those guys at minimum, Joe Burrow.
Those top 4 or 5?
Yeah, and I don't know if you consider Joe Burrow in your top 4 or 5, but Joe Burrow's the guy I'd come out with.
Joe Burrow is the guy that you've been coming away with a lot more?
If Lamar and Josh Allen are gone, yes.
Okay. So you prefer Joe over someone like Jalen Hurts?
I like Jalen Hurts a lot too. I think there's a lot of value, but yeah, I would go Joe over that just because the difference maker. I mean, I know you have AJ Brown with Hurts, but Jamar Chase is the difference. The yards after catch with Jamar Chase, a lot of plays just get extended in a way that helps a quarterback.
I really do like Joe Burrow. I think that he is in that top tier of play. But the quarterback that I'm trying to come away with is Baker Mayfield. I think that he is Joe Burrow light. He has almost just as good of a wide receiver core. I actually prefer his offensive line. The running back situation is very similar.
I agree. I'm with you. I love Baker.
With Baker Mayfield, you're getting a very similar player with a very similar output, but at a 10th of the cost.
I've always been a Baker Bros, they call it. I think the offense suits him. We'll see how it changes. With Cohen gone, I definitely look into how coordinators leaving will affect production, just the pace of play, how things are called. So Baker Mayfield's still high on my list. He has a lot of great targets, and I'll get into one of those actually as my must-have later.
Okay. All right. So let's go running back. So you went first with quarterbacks. I'll go first with running backs. The running back I want to come away with is Jonathan Taylor. You're going to have to get him in the 2nd round probably, but news just broke. We talked about it in the previous episode. Yep, episode 3. Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback. If you looked at all of Jonathan Taylor's stats last year, anytime Anthony Richardson was not the quarterback, the man went off. That's the running back that I have had my eyes set on every draft in that 2nd round.
Okay. I like that. I said this also in episode 3. It's clear. Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy I want. Jahmyr Gibbs is the running back I must have. I won't stray away from that. If I were to answer another running back that I would want, I'm a big scheme guy that I would probably take a shot on early is Najee Harris. And the key factor there is Jim Harbaugh.
Really?
Jim Harbaugh is the reason why Jim Harbaugh has wanted Najee Harris since his Michigan days. He finally gets his hand and he blows his eye off. Not really, but like he has a freak accident with a firework.
I mean, they just drafted Omari and Hampton
I
pretty high.
They did, but they love their running game and Najee Harris being a freak of nature. You've seen it in Harbaugh offenses before. 2 running backs can eat very well in a Harbaugh offense. I think a lot of people will be quick to go Omarion Hampton because of the draft status, but I think people are more hesitant on Harris because they've been burned before. I am big on Harris. I think that Chargers situation is a great situation for him. That's a guy I'd be willing to take a chance on early.
That's wild to me because I hate Najee Harris. I have hated him for so long. And the man can't get a 20-plus yard run. He can't. He is the epitome of, you need 1 yard, I'll get you 3. You need 5 yards, I'm going to get you 3.
And Jim Harbaugh has been known, and this is why Eckler is in Washington. Eckler knew Harbaugh likes to run his running backs into the ground. He's won Najee Harris for so long that I think Jim Harbaugh won't be able to contain himself having Najee Harris in his backfield. So I think he's going to be a high volume guy, and those high volume touches turn into pretty good fantasy turnouts. So I'm big on it.
So now to wide receiver. Let's hear one of your wide receivers must-haves.
Well, we'll get right to it. You said Baker Mayfield was a quarterback must-have for you. Emeka Egbuka is mine. I'm always big on the rookie receivers with McMillan just going down with a neck injury for a substantial part of the year. Even without McMillan going down, I've heard great things about that connection between Baker and Egbuka. It's giving Baker Jarvis Landry in energy. He was amazing at Ohio State. We've seen what Ohio State receivers do in this league. I think he's a guy I got to have a receiver. I think he's perfect wide receiver too.
All right. Are you saying you would be comfortable with Egbuka being a wide receiver 2 on your fantasy team, or do you think he's a good wide receiver 2 for the Bucs?
Fantasy wise, wide receiver 2, but he is wide receiver 1 of the future for Tampa Bay. I don't doubt that.
He could be like the Rome Odunze of Tampa.
Yeah, 100%.
I can see it. So the wide receiver that I look at to draft, Jameson Williams. I am enamored with this man. He has first-round pedigree. I absolutely love the Lions offense and the fact that Jameson Williams just streaks down the field. He's faster than 95% of the players in the NFL. He is so good. He has the size. He has the speed. He is what McMillan in Carolina will eventually be. Everyone's drafting McMillan out of Carolina. I want Jameson Williams.
I'm with you. I think he takes the next step up. He's battled some injuries, and he's shown great flash, especially at the end of last year. I'm with you. I like that. I'm big in, with Ben Johnson being gone down in Chicago, once again, going back to coordinators, determining my draft strategy. I'm intrigued to see what that offense looks like now with a new play caller. I'm big on that Lions offense. I just got to contain myself. I always have Amon-Ra St. Brown every year. I can't afford to take any more Lions offensive players. That's just a bad fantasy strategy. So I got to contain my excitement, and maybe in a couple of my other leagues, I got to let go of drafting St. Brown, even though he's highly productive. I might need to commit to one Lions offensive player for the year.
The Sun God is he's a unreal target machine.
Yeah, he is.
All right, let's move on to tight end. So for me, I love Brock Bowers so much, but his price tag is getting way too high. He's going in the second round right now. Between him and Trey McBride, I think it's too rich for my blood. I would much rather get those high-end running backs and high-end wide receivers around that draft spot well over Brock Bowers. So I think the tight end that I would go for is someone who I believe is going to bounce back have themselves a top 3 tight end season, and they're going to be a safety valve for a first-year starting quarterback. Do you know where I'm going with this? TJ Hawkinson. For Minnesota, I think TJ Hawkinson showed in the past that he has that top 3 tight end potential. And I think that with JJ McCarthy coming out and needing that safety valve, I think that TJ Hawkinson is just primed for an amazing year at very good value, because people are still taking, Brock Bowers ahead of him, Trey McBride ahead of him. I think Travis Kelce might still be going ahead of him. There is a plethora of tight ends that are going ahead of him that I think that he is not far behind, but still enough of a step ahead of those like David Njoku and that next tier. I think he's far enough ahead of them and not far enough behind the others to justify taking him right around where his ADP is set.
Okay. I like that. I will admit, this tight end position is tough for me in fantasy, just because we're seeing a change in the guard. There's guys that are aging out, the Kelce's, things of that nature. Kittle with injuries. So, Brock Bowers is the new ringleader of the young tight ends here, right? At tight end U. This is one I really struggled with last year. I end up lucking up with Otten due to injuries at the end and just going with whoever Baker Mayfield's tight end was. And that's what saved my butt last year. This is still a tough decision for me, but I am going to go Colston Loveland, my Michigan boy. I love it. Once again, Sam Laporta, Ben Johnson back in Detroit was big. I think that's not going to change with Ben Johnson. He loves his tight ends. He's going to find ways to scheme those guys open in Chicago. I love what I've seen out Loveland, in college. I think that's only going to continue to grow. I think he has a Travis Kelce like demeanor to him as well. So I think he'll the makings to be a great tight end, and I'm excited for him to be a prime target. So that's the guy I'm going.
So 2 questions here. One, are you worried about Cole Kmet taking a lot of that away from Loveland?
No, because I think at the value of which Loveland was drafted in the first round, I think where the Bears are at, I think they're going to try and make it evident and clear. I think they're going to try to force the ball to Loveland at times, and that's what Ben Johnson is good at. He's good at scheming his tight ends open. I think both guys can eat, but on a fancy level, I think Loveland will have the larger volume and then Kmet. So that's where I'm at with that.
Do you think that Darren Waller is going to have any fantasy relevance at all? All right, so we've done all of our positions for the most part. Do you have a deep sleeper, someone who's drafted after the 8th round or later, someone that you're like, you know what? I might be getting this guy late, but he could be a serious contributor to my team.
Yeah, I said it earlier. Johnson out of Pittsburgh, the running back. No Najee Harris. Jalen Warren's more of a spell back, third down back guy, receiving back type guy. When you talk about getting carries in the red zone, looks like it's going to be Johnson. There's a lot of question marks when it comes to that Pittsburgh offense, but someone's going to score points for them. I don't know if it's going to be DK, truth be told. So I like that running back pick. I think he fits offense very well. So I'm thinking about a late round guy that can be highly productive by the end of it. I'm going Johnson at Pittsburgh.
He could be a league winner, right? He could be someone that takes over that backfield and just doesn't turn back, just all signs point forward, right? For me, my late round sleeper, someone who has a history of being a top 15 receiver, but last year barely cracked the top 40. If he did, I don't even know if he did. Michael Pittman Jr. So Pittman Jr., again, Danny Dimes is starting. It ain't Anthony Richard, it's Danny Dimes.
I don't know how you got that nickname. That's a whole nother story. Yeah. yeah. No, he's not famous. I don't know how you got the name Danny Dimes, but all right. But no, I'm with you. I like that one. I like that.
Now, Danny Dimes, he had Neighbors as a top 5 receiver last year. I think he could easily make Pittman Jr. a top 20 wide receiver again. Easily. And Pittman Jr. is somebody coming in that's being drafted way later than anyone else is thinking, right? I guarantee that this next week, since Danny Dimes has been announced as the starting quarterback, Pittman Jr. is going to rise up these draft boards, and he'll probably not count for this category for too much longer.
I have a few questions, fantasy wise, just on specific names that they're coming to me that I'm intrigued, and I have my own questions about and my own thoughts on. We're going to start with the quarterback position. We talked about this team quite a bit. I've talked about this team. Caleb Williams. What do you see for him this year on a fantasy level?
So, on a fantasy level, I think that Caleb has a lot of potential because it's a Ben Johnson run offense. And because he is pretty dang mobile, right? The word coming out of camp is not great. They want him to be around that 65-70% completion percentage. I think he's hovering around 50-55. And Ben Johnson ain't happy about it, right? So Caleb Williams, if in a standard format where it's only going to be 10 to 12 quarterbacks being drafted, I don't see him being drafted.
Williams in general, I never thought he was impressive as he was made out to be. I still think he has all the tools to be a great quarterback, but as far as the sheer mental capacity to want to win and fight through adversity, I've not seen that. And those are things, at the end of the day, fantasy football is still a form of football, and those things show up on Sunday when they play. So I'm with you there.
So one quarterback that was a starter last year for many fantasy teams that is in a new place this year, Sam Darnold. Do you think that Sam Darnold, without Justin Jefferson, can still be fantasy relevant?
Yeah, I think so. Cooper Kupp is going to be the big difference maker there. Jackson Smith-Njigba there. So there's some targets there in Seattle. So it's not like he's walking into nothing. And Seattle always has a way to find great running backs. So he'll be supported by a good running game. And he's walking to a position where he's only got to be a game manager, in the same way. So I don't think he'll be top tier. But I think if he stays consistent, like he's not going to do what we did in Minnesota. Minnesota's offense is predicated and you don't get Justin Jefferson, like you said. But I think he's a guy that if he can average 2 touchdowns passing a game, he can be a solid contributor, quarterback too, especially on your bye week. But I don't see him as a starter in a 12-person league, truth be told. At the running back position here, what's your status on Nick Chubb leaving Cleveland, fighting so many injuries? Now going to Houston, what do you think Nick Chubb is going to be?
So here's the thing. There are so many issues with the Houston Texans running back position as a whole. Joe Mixon, no one knows if he's even going to be good enough to play this year in terms of health. Nick Chubb, he looks like he lost a step last year. He was coming back from that injury, so no one knows really where he was at. I think Nick Chubb's probably going to be RB3 in that offense. He's just not someone that I view as he should not even be rostered in standard fantasy formats. He just, even as a handcuff, he's just not there. Until he shows me something, he's just not even fantasy relevant. He's just not anymore.
It's name association, right? With that's why I bring him up. A lot of people know Nick Chubb, and I'm personally a big fan of Nick Chubb. But fantasy level, when I sit down and look at it, I was like, I don't think I could draft Nick Chubb in fantasy. I don't think I could. So we align there. But one more running back in that regard when it comes to injuries, guy that's been prime for forever, Christian McCaffrey. Where do you see him?
I think that Christian McCaffrey had a dead year last year. He didn't really play. He had that Achilles injury, and then he had another injury, and it just snowballed into a lost year. I think he's going to come back this year and ball out. I'm drafting 9th in our league, and I have a strong sense that he's going to fall to me at 9, and I am going to happily take him.
Your standard league, I would be wary of McCaffrey.
If you're taking him in that back end of the first round, I think it's not a problem at all.
But top 5?
No. Your top 5 is almost set. You have Jamar Chase 1 or 2, Robinson 1 or 2. Then you have Barkley, Jefferson, and Gibbs. Those 3 are going to be 3, 4, 5 in some way.
Moving on to my next question, George Pickens in Dallas. Where do you have him?
So George Pickens is a player that I thought was amazing for where he was drafted. He had Mike Tomlin to really keep his head on straight as possible. I don't know how straight it is now. The fact that Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers were like, no, not doing it anymore. We're done. Have fun. Have fun. He's too nuts. He's too crazy.
That's hard to do with the list of names that have walked through that room. That's hard to do.
With that being said, he's got so much talent. But he's going to Dallas where they have a history of not really throwing to their number 2 wide receiver. He's a better Michael Gallup. He's the same player as Michael Gallup, just with more attitude and more Pickens.
I think he's better than Gallup. I just think his catch radius and to go up and get jump balls, it's gonna help.
Him and Gallup are both great at high pointing balls. Where he beats Gallup is in his route running and his intermediate stuff. Gallup couldn't do that stuff. That just wasn't his game. He's going to go down the field, throw him the ball, and he's going to jump out of the building to get it.
To bring it back to fantasy, to put in this perspective, you're sitting there round 7 or 8, right? George Pickens is still hanging around.
I'd rather wait the round or 2 and take Michael Pittman Jr.
I have another receiver for you. We talked about the Dolphins, but Tyreek Hill, where we have him.
Here's the thing about Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is one of those players that he could be a top 3 receiver in the league. He could be all the way down at wide receiver 40. His range is so vast that it's almost impossible to gauge it. Where he's being drafted in that top of the 3rd round, it's just not worth it to me. Like you're grabbing someone who's going to win you 3 weeks. He is going to ball out for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns on 12 catches for 3 weeks. And then the rest of the time, he's just going to be crap. Because Tua is going to end up with another concussion and be on the field. That's not making the pod.
That was funny, though. Yeah.
With that being said, Tyreek Hill is just he's not my cup of tea. He's not worth the price tag. If I can get him in the end of the 4th, I think that would be around, like, it's just that full round and a half later that I would feel more comfortable getting him, because then you have a lottery ticket that is worth the risk at that point. Because if you're getting him in the top of the 3rd, you're talking about players like Drake London, Brian Thomas Jr., that like you don't want to. Now those guys are going in the 2nd, probably not necessarily the 3rd, but that's the group he's going with, and I just don't see it.
Tyreek Hill was a top 10 guy, and it was like round 2. But for our draft, for example, I'm in the top order of that. So yeah, I would be hesitant to take Hill in the top portion of 3rd. 4th, yeah, he's sitting there. I would do it. So I'm with you. That's a tough decision. But if you're in the back end of the 3rd, that's a different story. The last position group, obviously tight end. I want to ask, and this is pretty obvious, the question. Kansas City, Travis Kelce. We're seeing the signs of aging. He's slowing down. But the relationship with Taylor Swift is ramping up. So, fantasy wise, where do you see Travis Kelce?
To me, Travis Kelce is middle of the pack tight end. I think he's another one of those Tyreek Hills. He's going to give you a few good weeks. He's in his mid 30s. Like, he's just older. I'd rather have someone like Sam Laporta or TJ Hawkinson. I'd even rather David Njoku, especially with Joe Flacco starting.
I'm with you. I I think the days of him being dominant are behind him. And there's more guys like Tyler Warren and younger guys coming through that are more important. So I'm with you.
All right. So I think that does it. I think the books are closed on this special episode of fantasy. With that being
So
said,
great, thanks.
have fun, be safe, guys. That's it.